Alright guys, HCS again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic's Halo team win HCS Fort Worth with an incredibly icy Grand Finals performance led by the MVP, getting another MVP award to his name, OpTic FormaL himself, as he takes another step towards being considered in some people's eyes the best esports player of all time. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, gotta mention Clayster, how he got on yesterday in the conclusion to Ludwig's World's Greatest Gamer Tournament. They did actually play Defiant here, and Aches could not even give a date as to when it's going to be confirmed yet for when this game's actually going to arrive. I think he was there on the couch and Ludwig was asking him like, when's it actually going to arrive? And he says, we're in this submission process and all this. I think there were some issues with the game in the beta they had to get resolved, and therefore by the time they're doing that, it's it's taken rather too long. This map I actually remember playing in the beta very briefly when I did play it, and Clay is absolutely cooking these guys here. I think Clay's team is a bit overpowered, to be fair, because they had him on the same team as Tens, but they played a little bit, and it's interesting the meta that we might see in this, just because on Clay's POV you can see a lot of this, the crouching and standing up mid gunfight. This I think really came into effect, I think it was World War II that I saw people first doing this, right back in, we're talking like 2018. Scraps I know was a big proponent of this, where mid gunfight you crouch stand up, makes yourself harder to kill, and people started doing it kind of in World War II a little bit, and then certainly Black Ops 4, this was in addition to like the ADS spam meta, also mid gunfight crouching and standing up again seemed to be the meta, so Clay using it here to good effect, and in the end Clay got through this round. He then actually, I'm pretty sure, won a CS 1v1 against aBeZy, so then he went on to the next round, got all the way to the Street Fighter portion, which is kind of where he thought that his run might come to an end, which I believe is what happened. But yeah, Clay got to the top 8 here, which was very impressive, put on a great show for the content. I believe it was Void that ended up winning, so congrats to to everyone putting this on and making it work. We see Tens, we see Zekid on the right hand side, here's Clay. So yeah, he had a great time, and I also thought this was quite telling in some way of Clay as a competitor, because as he says here, I think it's hilarious how irrationally mad my brain gets at losing, even though I specifically didn't practice, right? He loses games that he's never really played to people that have played much more than him, let's say the Street Fighter one, for example. I don't think he really expected to win, but still, like, his brain still gets annoyed at it. Could be Monopoly, Uno, Con Champs, I'll still get annoyed, and that's the sign of a man that still has that competitive drive there to compete. Now, we don't know where Clay's going to go next year still. We think Los Angeles Grillers might be the most likely, but it's not like we believe they're going to pay any more than Vegas are going to pay, so that's the difficulty. But again, it's not like Clay's going to go to Challengers. We talked about it with Donny Temp yesterday, whether it's better to go to Challengers, bide your time, or actually get a spot in the CDL. I think in almost all circumstances, the latter is better, right? Just take the CDL spots that will be offered. And Clay, likely, as he said a couple of weeks ago, has many players interested in bringing him on board. So, Clay, I'm sure, can find a good team. And Clay is on kind of the borderline, really, of being one of the top esports players ever, in terms of longevity at the very least. But the man that, is at the top of that throne, at least from a controller perspective, or what you'd consider to be traditionally console games, such as COD or Halo. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure right now Halo's played on the PCs, right? I mean, you can actually see them now on the stage, but I don't think anyone's considering Halo to be a PC game. So that's always the thing, controller, console, whatever. OpTic, as we talked about yesterday, they took down SSG and FaZe, made it all the way through to the winners finals. They then 3-0'd Native Red quite quickly to make it to the grand finals. But the losers bracket, this is where Space Station again, I mean, man, this team is so scary. They started to make their losers bracket run, taking down Quadrant, then 3-0 FaZe very swiftly, then 3-0ing Native Red to set up the grand finals against OpTic again. It was quite interesting as well, actually. Before the day's action kind of kicked off, they gave out some awards for, best coach and best slayer, which I thought was pretty funny, really. So here's FormaL receiving his award for the main slayer of the event with, crazy KD and some of the best damage and performances of the event so far. But, at this point, the championship Sunday hadn't concluded, so there was still a lot more work to be done. But some of the numbers here, I mean, are just so absurd. And people forget in some way what happened with FormaL when he first came into Call of Duty, because, as I said yesterday, FormaL's like top 5 COD player ever. But compared to some of the other players above him, he actually didn't even play for that long. I mean, he came in pretty much middle of Call of Duty Ghosts after winning some stuff in Halo. The Halo scene then was pretty much dying off, and the MLG calendar moved over to Call of Duty a little bit more, so lots of Halo pros tried to transition. It was only really FormaL FormaL and Enable that actually did so successfully. FormaL came in, and within like a couple of months of playing COD, was winning an event on Envy at Gfinity 3 at the end of the season with like a ridiculous 1.3 KD or something. Like, FormaL came in, and within a matter of a couple of months was basically the best player in the game. People were like saying this FormaL guy is ridiculous, and he'd done a bit of team hopping as he did back in the day to get on that good Envy team that they won the event with at the end of Ghosts. And, you know, we're talking the time of Complexity and Evil Geniuses. Okay, yes, they'd had their drama by that point, but still, I mean, that was a difficult time to come into COD. FormaL was dominating off the bat, and then the very next season got picked up to OpTic, right, which is not something that happens particularly often. But even at the time, like, a lot of OpTic fans didn't even want FormaL. They thought this guy is some arrogant kid who come over from Halo. You know, he thinks he's good because he's just good at COD Ghost or something, and he's doing all this team hopping. He's not loyal. So there was a lot of thought at the time that, this FormaL guy, like, we don't really want him on the green wall. But you know, quite quickly the thoughts turned around when it turned out this FormaL guy was actually ridiculously good at Advanced Warfare. They won a lot, and that maintained for several years to come. But as his career was dwindling down, the feeling was kind of during MW19 and certainly during Cold War that, yeah, FormaL's a bit washed now, right? And maybe it's time for him to go. And to be fair, he was getting dropped by OpTic Chicago at the end of that season because of, in part, the merger. But you know, he was going to get dropped and then just decided to call it a day and retire. And people thought that would probably be it. He was going to do content. Then Halo comes out, and all of a sudden the rest is history. Goes back to Halo, and he's won plenty of stuff since then. I mean, look at this bracket KD leaderboard on the weekends going into the grand finals, up there with Lucid with the highest individual KD performances of the entire weekend. So remarkable stuff. But the grand finals was all Space Station gaming, and this is why the format that they have in Halo. And I think that honestly, if Microsoft do come into the Call of Duty side and we go back to more of an open circuit style situation, I think that they might be tempted to get rid of some of the changes the C deal has made, potentially for the negative. I'm talking mainly 2 best of 5s versus a single best of 7 as we do in Call of Duty, regardless of who came from the winners bracket or the losers bracket. In Halo, it's much more traditional. If you come from the winners bracket, you have to lose 2 series to lose, which is pretty much the fairest way to do it. I'm not necessarily sure it's the best for various reasons I've gone into in the past, but it is nonetheless the fairest. So Space Station have to beat OpTic twice in 2 best of 7s here, and they smoke them at Series 1. Like, SSG came in, they 4-0'd OpTic Series 1. It's probably expected, really, because, you know, SSG come from the losers brackets. They're hot. They've just come off some hot 3-0s. They're going to come into this series really firing. But OpTic do bounce back as the second series begins. They take game 1. They eventually go up 3-1 here, OpTic. So, you know, it's one of those teams, OpTic, and led in part by FormaL. Obviously, we know how good FormaL's comms are, and it's not just the FormaL show, obviously. APG played his part, and then you could make a case for either Trippy or Lucid to also be the MVP alongside FormaL. But you know, with FormaL, you're going to get an icy team. Like, this team is going to be cool, calm, collected, and if things are going wrong, there's no issues. You know, they're going to be able to rebound from it. And I thought it was impressive to go down, to get 4-0 smoked Series 1 by a really good SSG team, and then to bounce back the second series, go up 3-1 as they did, eventually went to a Game 7 Slayer, and they were able to get over the line pretty emphatically, actually, with what was a dominant final map performance from Lucid especially, who had like 18 assists and 11 kills, which is just insane impact. But from a slaying perspective, FormaL was like 16 in 6 or something. Like, you went plus 10 to close out the series, and if there's anyone you can rely on to like ice up Game 7, second best of 5 for the dub when it all is on the line, FormaL's the man.
OpTic. I've said it once, I'll say it again. When you need someone to perform, when you're under pressure, you need to turn the tides of a performance, you send in FormaL.
48 kills here. 1 to go for OpTic Gaming.
Lucid with the snipe. Eco peaks. The question is, who wants it for OpTic? Of course it's Trippy! One of the greatest series we've seen. The bracket reset at Game 7. But when it's all said and done, OpTic answer the questions and return to the top of the mountain.
It's okay. Plan out of your mind Talk to me, how does it feel to win another MVP and do it in this championship?
I got a few MVPs, but like, nah, this
That's
one's nice.
another one,
This
though.
one's nice, all right? I like it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. For real, you guys were amazing all weekend. Thank you.
There you go. All right, everybody, FormaL, hand me the mic one time.
So just adding more pieces to this quite incredible legacy that FormaL has, because I don't know where he would have been considered like all-time esports players had he not returned to Halo. But since he's returned, he's done ridiculously well. I remember in the early part, people were like, FormaL, maybe he's not so good. He was on FaZe, then FaZe kind of got rid of him, and then obviously he got the chance to go to OpTic, which maybe he plotted a little bit behind the scenes, managed to get that to work, and FormaL was really hyped about this. You could tell it meant a lot to him, actually, because they've been struggling a little bit OpTic lately to try and get back to the form where they were in at the end of last season, where they were just winning absolutely everything. And yeah, the MVP clearly meant a lot to him as well. So yeah, crazy stuff. It's just remarkable to see FormaL just still winning and taking dubs at the moment. And it comes at a very interesting time because the next event is next month and it's the World Championship. This time last year, pretty much, the OpTic Halo team were finding themselves in a similar position where they were the best team in the world and they won a lot of events, including Champs last season. So FormaL will be trying to do the same thing again. Obviously, lots of support coming in here from Scump especially, and also from Shotzzy as well, actually, who then replied and basically said, because Shotzzy knows full well, having also won a Call of Duty World Championship and a Halo World Championship, he won it on Splice back in 2018 and Dallas Empire, of course, in 2020. Shotzzy knows full well how impressive it is what FormaL is presently and still achieving. So just look at these numbers, right? I mean, 23 championship wins in COD, 2017 World Champ, couple of MVPs in there. Of course, he's also got the Halo MVP now, won the Halo World Champ last year, 8 tournament victories there, $1 million+ in prize earnings. Like, his career is just ridiculous. And to do it on this high of a level across 2 games is pretty much unheard of, to be honest. And as I've said before, like, there's no doubt in my mind that FormaL's the best console FPS player ever, controller, console, whatever you want to call it. That's my opinion. I know there's other names you could put into the conversation, but like, I think it's pretty much undisputed at this point. The only one that could potentially compete is the likes of Shotzzy, because Shotzzy has won one in Halo, and if Shotzzy goes on to do incredible things in COD, and then maybe even returns to Halo at some point in the future, who knows, then I think Shotzzy has a chance, but like, no one's really been able to do what FormaL's been able to do. The question that's then been raised, given the fact that he's now won another event, another MVP, brought OpTic back to the top again, and you know, is potentially on the verge. Like, I'm not sure. OpTic will, I guess, have to go into next month's World Championship as the favourites, right? Because they've just won the event before. SSG will be right up there, and SSG have been ridiculously good. So it's tough to call between the two, and it's not like FaZe or Sentinels or those other teams we mentioned are bad at all. But, you know, if FormaL was to get... Can you imagine he got another ring? Imagine if he went back-to-back in Halo World Championships, which is possible. It's going to be a challenge next month, but it's definitely possible. Where does that then put FormaL, like, all-time FPS players? Because from like an all-time controller console esports perspective, FormaL's #1. But then as Slasher says, you know, you've got other players here. Rafra, I believe, like an old-school Quake player, the likes of Forest, Simp. Like, you know, how does FormaL compare to Simp? It's tough to say. Simp dominated CSGO for some time and is still playing at a very high level. But, you know, how does that compare on that title to playing across 2 different franchises in the controller landscape? It's difficult to say. But, you know, FormaL's definitely on the list of greatest FPS players ever, regardless of PC versus controller console, as far as I'm concerned. But if FormaL now wins another championship, like, you know, does that put him even further up there? So, yeah, definitely enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Just thought it was incredible what FormaL's done. I mean, from the Halo days before he even came to COD, and then coming to COD, winning some championships, winning a lot over the next 5-6 years, really, before then calling it a day in 2021, and then winning 4 more events since then in Halo. It's, yeah, I mean, all-time great. Absolutely undisputed. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.